A hospital room. Cold, sterile, lit by the unforgiving glare of fluorescent lights. A man sits on the edge of the bed, hands trembling as he waits. His head tilts forward, exposing the top of his scalp where a series of grotesque swellings bulge unnaturally. What began as harmless pimples has now transformed into something far darker. The surgeon steps forward, scalpel glinting in the light. With one decisive cut, the skin parts. Silence falls over the room as the swelling opens, and what emerges is not pus, not fluid, not what anyone expected. It writhes. Nurses gasp, recoiling in disbelief. Instruments clatter to the floor. From beneath the man's scalp comes something alive. For a moment, even the doctor is frozen, staring at what he has uncovered. The patient grips the bed frame with white knuckles, his breath caught in his throat. The truth that spills out of his head is so shocking, so grotesque, that it defies reason. And it all started with what looked like nothing more than a pimple. This is not just a medical anomaly. It is a story of silent suffering, ignored warnings, and a revelation that shattered everyone who witnessed it. So now, ask yourself, how many small things in life are we dismissing as harmless? How often do we ignore the quiet signals before disaster strikes? If you'd like to hear more true stories of resilience, redemption, and the human spirit, make sure to like, subscribe, and follow this channel. His name was Daniel. At 42, Daniel was a husband, a father, and a man known for his quiet dependability. He worked long shifts at a local factory, returning home each evening with tired eyes, but a smile reserved for his wife, Clara, and their 2 children. Their life was simple. Mornings filled with coffee and hurried breakfasts. Evenings spent around the dinner table. Weekends by the creek, where Daniel taught his children how to bait a hook and sit patiently for fish that rarely came. He wasn't wealthy, but he was loved. Daniel's co-workers admired him. He never complained, never shirked responsibility. If someone needed help lifting a heavy load, Daniel was there. If a colleague was absent, Daniel stayed late. At home, his children adored him. To them, their father was a hero. To Clara, he was her anchor. There were no signs that tragedy was lurking. Nothing about Daniel's life suggested he would one day become the center of a story so chilling that it would ripple far beyond his small town. It started with the smallest of interruptions. One night, while sitting on the couch beside his son, Daniel scratched the top of his head. His fingers paused over a tiny bump. Smooth, round, harmless, a blemish. Just a pimple, he thought, chuckling quietly. But what seemed ordinary would soon evolve into a nightmare. At first, the bump itched. That was all. Days passed. The bump remained. Daniel barely noticed it, too consumed with the demands of work and family. But over time, more bumps appeared. Another, then another. Each small, each easily dismissed. At dinner, Clara noticed him rubbing his head. "Something bothering you?" she asked. "Just a zit," he said with a laugh. "Guess I'm not too old for them after all." He brushed it off. But at night, lying awake in the dark, Daniel traced the bumps with nervous fingers. They didn't feel like pimples. They felt harder, more solid. Still, he convinced himself it was nothing. Weeks turned into months. The bumps remained. Occasionally, one would ache. Occasionally, he'd feel a throbbing pulse beneath the skin. But Daniel ignored it. He had bills to pay, children to care for. There was no time to worry about something so small. But what he dismissed as harmless was quietly, steadily growing. The swellings began to multiply. Some grew larger, distorting the natural shape of his scalp. Daniel began wearing a cap everywhere he went. At work, when his co-workers asked why he kept rubbing his head, he muttered something about headaches. But the truth was much worse. The itching turned into pain. The pain turned into throbbing. At night, Clara would wake to find him pressing an ice pack against his skull, his jaw clenched in silent agony. One evening, their daughter Sarah reached up to hug him. Her small hand brushed across his scalp. "Daddy, why does your head feel bumpy?" she asked innocently. Daniel forced a smile. "Just old man problems, sweetheart." But inside, fear gnawed at him. The bumps no longer felt like pimples. They felt alive, pulsing, shifting. If you'd like more stories like this, subscribing helps us continue bringing them to you. The breaking point came one night in early spring. Daniel woke in agony, clutching his head. Sweat drenched his shirt, his breath ragged. Stumbling to the bathroom mirror, he saw one of the swellings had split open. A thick, yellow fluid seeped out. Clara screamed when she saw it. "That's it. You're going to the doctor." Now, for the first time, Daniel didn't resist. At the clinic the next morning, the doctor examined his scalp with a deepening frown. The swelling was unlike anything he had seen before. He ordered immediate tests. "This isn't normal," he said quietly. "We need to know what's inside." Daniel's heart sank. What had he been ignoring all this time? The operating room was tense. Daniel lay on the table, scalp numbed by anesthesia. The surgeon made the first incision, expecting pus, perhaps an abscess. What he found was far worse. From beneath the skin, something moved. The doctor pulled back, eyes wide. Slowly, he grasped it with forceps and drew it out. A worm, thick, writhing, alive. The nurses gasped in horror as more followed. Not one, not two, dozens. Each slick, coiled, and buried deep into Daniel's flesh. His scalp had become a living nest. The supposed pimples had never been pimples at all. They were parasites. Daniel, semi-conscious, could hear the gasps, the hurried voices, the metallic clatter of instruments. When he was shown what had been removed, his stomach turned. His head had been a breeding ground. Your support means everything. Subscribing helps us continue telling stories that matter. Tests revealed the parasites were linked to contaminated water sources. Daniel remembered the fishing trips at the creek with his children. Could that peaceful stream have been the source? Investigators tested the water. The truth was chilling. A nearby factory had been dumping chemical waste into the creek. The toxins had created conditions for parasites to thrive. Daniel wasn't the only victim. Others in town had begun experiencing unexplained rashes, fevers, skin growths. The creek, once a place of joy, had been turned into a breeding ground for disease. A silent killer hidden in plain sight. Daniel's story spread quickly. The factory denied involvement, but mounting evidence exposed years of negligence. Families came forward. Testimonies piled up. Medical reports painted a damning picture. Court cases followed. Lawyers clashed. Experts testified. And slowly, the truth emerged. Greed and corruption had poisoned a community. Daniel became a reluctant hero. His suffering had uncovered the truth. His scars bore witness to the dangers ignored for too long. His story became the rallying cry for justice. The factory was fined. The creek was closed. But doctors warned the danger might not be over. Parasites could lay dormant, waiting years before reappearing. As Daniel healed, he couldn't escape the unease. Was he truly safe? Or was something still hidden beneath the surface, waiting to awaken? Elsewhere, similar cases began to emerge. The nightmare wasn't isolated. It was spreading. Life can change with something as small as a bump on the skin. What seems harmless can hide unimaginable danger. Daniel's story is not just about parasites. It's about resilience, about standing against negligence, and about the hidden battles our bodies can fight without us even knowing. The warning is clear. Don't ignore the signs. Listen when something feels wrong. Take action before it's too late. If you'd like to hear more stories of resilience, redemption, and the human spirit, don't forget to like, subscribe, and follow this channel.